Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we'll be featuring the Tier 7 Russian destroyer known as the Kiev in a Tier 7 domination game on the map Two Brothers. The reason why I'm featuring this ship today, well there's two reasons in fact. Firstly, I thought I'd bring a little bit more variety to the channel after having 2 weeks of battleship gameplay, whereby I'm on course to become a better battleship player in 2017. Having spent the last 2 weeks playing just World of Warships to get the Admiral Graf Spee campaign out of the way. It's been a long haul, but finally I got that out of the way as of the weekend just gone. And the second reason, after heading back to Destroyers for a couple of days just to enjoy the class I love to bits, is because this gameplay in particular, in my opinion, is my best gameplay so far in World of Warships. It may not be the highest experience tally, it may not be the highest damage I've ever done, but I really feel this gameplay is going to show how I personally think I'm not too bad a destroyer player, and in particular with the Kiev. So, the starting situation was we spawned in on the south side of the map, we were dead centre of the map as well, so we could pick to go west or east. We elect to go towards Alpha. Over the course of this game I will be mentioning some of the statistics of the Kiev, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because we covered the statistics time and time before in other videos, including the Heartbreaker video which we saw just before Christmas if I remember correctly in the Kiev, link available in the top right corner of your screen as displayed now if you're interested. But we'll be mentioning some other key statistics which we're thinking of as we play and which enable us to gain the upper hand or do our job. So straight away what we can notice our 42.5 knots top speed is crucial on the map Two Brothers because it enables us to get between the objectives very quickly, faster than practically every ship we can encounter except the likes of say the Tier 7 Russian premium destroyer known as the Leningrad, which has a top speed of 43 knots. And this is before using the speed boost consumable or speed flags. But we have a price to pay as we make our way towards Alpha and we catch up to our Freni Mayhan and Freni Mizuki, two other destroyers on our team. And that is our detectability by sea is 8.7 km with camouflage, which means as we head into Alpha, if an enemy destroyer is coming on the northeastern side of Alpha, we will be the first ship in the engagement to get spotted before all others. But we're going to use this to essentially signal whether the enemy destroyers are being aggressive or passive. And what we're going to find out, oddly enough, as we're not being spotted at the moment, is that the enemy destroyers that have gone towards Alpha are being passive. They're just trying to torpedo the objective from afar, as we're not being spotted, and this means now we can actually afford to let our Mayhan open fire as they do and get spotted first. As we see a set of torpedoes come raging, a lot of torpedoes in fact, unfortunately for our Mayhan, those torpedoes were just out of range. As the Mayhan now goes to smoke, having been detected already, and we can see that the enemy destroyers are actually making their way round towards the western side of A. Far from it as well to perhaps torpedo into the objective. We're going to see it's a squad of destroyers, a Sims and an Akatsuki, two Tier 7 destroyers. Now as we open fire on the enemy Nagato here, our intention is to set them on fire as well as do some damage. That way the fire will cause them to bleed health. There's our first fire of the game. When they put the fire out, we can cause another one and just continually make them bleed health until they decide to repair some of it, at which point we're going to make them use their repair consumables a lot earlier than they would like. And that is where the 8% fire chance base for the Kiev really works well, with our fire chance being 11% because we have the demolition expert skill on our captain. And on top of that, with the fact you have a 4.5 second reload with basic firing training, as seen here, and you have 3 twin 130mm cannon turrets, 2 towards the front, 1 towards the rear, which have a reload rate of 4.5 seconds as we've said, and the fact they've actually got a very nice dispersion, and on top of that, a nice muzzle velocity of 800 cm per second, you can really harass the bigger ships at range, and even cause all hell to enemy destroyers that decide to engage you at 7 km plus, such as the Akatsuki opened fire on us, got a couple of scratching hits, and then we did significantly more damage back to them. Now straight away we went to our smoke and our speed boost, the reason being because we can't afford to get stuck into a 2 versus 1 engagement against the enemy destroyers that are supporting one another. So what we decided to do is lay up our smoke screen in order to bait the enemy destroyers to throw their torpedoes into it. Then we use our speed boost just to reverse out the way, with our bow pointed towards where the destroyers were. So if they decide to torpedo into the smoke, we can dodge the incoming torpedoes, and that means we can just keep shooting at the enemy battleships without fear of retaliatory fire, apart from the battleships themselves. But they're engaged at the moment in the likes of the Murmansk and the Mayhan on Alpha, so we can just keep setting the fires and racking up the damage. But now we're just over a minute of our speed boost left, we decide to charge towards the enemy sims because they seem to be just sitting behind the landmass in front of us, or what is now off to technically our starboard side, and we're going to try and poke them with a couple of torpedoes, if not our main batteries. But as soon as we go there, the Akatsuki spots us, and that means the sims now knows we're on our way. Pardon me. So what we decide to do is immediately turn, because our rudder shift of 3.8 seconds, and on top of that our speed of a speed boost being boosted above 42.5 knots, means that it's going to be difficult for us to dodge those torpedoes at the last minute, especially seeing as our turn circle radius is 690 meters, which is huge for a destroyer. So we get out of the way of the torpedoes early, we put in a couple of nice shots on the sims, and they return fire and completely miss. Having dodged the torpedoes, we now rotate back towards Alpha at this point, because we know if we try to head in towards the sim smoke, it's going to be a 2 versus 1. And we've already said it once, we'll say it again, we can't afford that situation, seeing as we only have 12,800 HP, and we are a huge ship, we are a destroyer leader, essentially, or at least that's what the ship's going to become, when Wargaming decide to split the line of Russian destroyers into destroyer leaders and destroyers, with the Kiev heading up towards Tier 9, and it means we just can't afford to keep getting hit, because we've got a huge profile, we're very susceptible to high explosive, and even some armour piercing if hit bow on, whereby our 16 to 19mm of armour will essentially mean that if a shell penetrates through the bow of our ship, it's got a high chance of detonating inside the ship, i.e. an armour piercing fuse arming. But enough technicalities, let's bounce back towards some more shooting. Back on the shooting gallery against the enemy Congo once again, opening fire at maximum range, and we're hoping to set another fire to increase our damage tally even further and aggravate the hell out of that battleship. And this is something you can really enjoy in the Kiev, regardless of what tier you're playing against. Torpedoes coming in from the western side of A again. Guess who? It's the 2 destroyers. They seem to be very effective at teaming up with their torpedoes in order to try and harass our ships out of Alpha, or at least make us all aware of the fact there's torpedoes coming, and as a result ignorant of the battleship and the Pensacola heading in from the north now. And we can see how the enemy team around Alpha is now coordinating. We've got 2 destroyers off towards our western side, we've got the Congo and the Pensacola north of us. In return, it's only myself, a Matsuki and a Murmansk all sitting on Alpha. Our Mayhan has headed up towards B and is essentially getting into a situation out of their control as they try to capture B, whereby they've got a battleship and a cruiser, at least one cruiser, covering that objective. And we set 2 fires on the enemy Congo at this point. We're really going to burn away a lot of their health now, as long as they don't put it out. And we can see that our Murmansk is really not in a good situation as the Congo puts their fire out. Blast. And never mind, we can always set another shortly. Pensacola's charging in, they've lost a good amount of health to the Murmansk, but it's not enough as our Murmansk falls. And our Matsuki is now surrounded by the 2 enemy destroyers who are throwing torpedoes left, right and centre. And our Matsuki falls to the sims, so we need to run out of Alpha now. But due to the range of our guns, our muzzle velocity, therefore the nice firing arcs, quite flat ones, and just the fact in general we're quite used to the guns on this ship now, we can make sure that the enemy ships are not going to get Alpha straight away, as we throw in a couple of hits on the Congo, then we throw a load of shells towards the Pensacola, and then we'll throw one final salvo towards the Congo, dodging the return fire. We pick up a fire on the Pensacola along with the defend ribbon, and then we pick up an additional 2 defends on the Congo. So we delayed that capture for some time, as we're being pursued now by the enemy Akatsuki who wants to take Charlie, so it's a good thing we decided to run when we did, otherwise we would have had the door closed on us by the Akatsuki and been forced into a 4 versus 1. So now in Charlie, we're no longer detected because we stopped firing a little while ago, and now we're going to make our way up towards Bravo. The thing you should never do, as our Mayhan who was trying to contest Bravo falls to an enemy Nuremberg. But now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use the logic that seems to be occurring at the moment in World of Warships in order to bait the Nuremberg into an uncomfortable situation. Now, when we say that, what do we mean? Well, typically at the moment, or at least I've noticed, the meta is that if a destroyer puts up their smoke screen, they're very likely to just sit in it and shoot from it or torpedo from it. Now we did that earlier on, although we had our speed boost active to react to any situation. This time we're going to get as close as possible to the Nuremberg, who's still sitting on Bravo, at least we guess, and then we're going to use our smoke screen to bait them to come towards us, so that way they can get into the range of our 4km torpedoes. There's the Nuremberg. We're going to head towards the island on our left, or the landmass on our left I should say, try to hug it in order to try and catch the leading edge of the smoke screen between us and the Nuremberg, though we're going to see it's not enough as that smoke's dissipating, and as soon as we get spotted we're going to deploy our smoke screen. Now this will encourage the Nuremberg hopefully to come towards us, because they'll think, hold on a second, if that Kiev's going to smoke up in a very tight space, there's only one or two things they can do. Go forward or backwards, they can't turn. So if I charge towards them and then I unleash my 6-kilometer torpedoes into the smoke screen, the Kiev's either going to get sunk by the torpedoes or they're going to be in an uncomfortable situation, especially seeing as the Akatsuki on the enemy team is now capturing Charlie. But we're prepared for this. We're going to reverse to the backage of our smoke to encourage the Nuremberg to come on as much as possible, and then when we feel the time's right, we'll activate our speed boost and we're going to charge them, making sure they're in the range of our 4-kilometer torpedoes. We've got 2 quintuple sets, both mounted down the centre line, and they have a top speed of 65 knots and can do a maximum damage per torpedo of 17,933. Only one of them needs to hit. Right on course, we start to make our way out of our smoke. The hydroacoustic search comes online, detecting us. We're bouncing a couple of 150mm caliber armour piercing rounds at this point, charging towards the Nuremberg, bouncing our own rounds off them. There's the torpedoes they were firing into our smoke screen, so it's worked so far. Unfortunately, off to our port side appears the enemy sims from earlier, so now we've got to dodge their torpedoes. We decide to fire off a set towards them to push them away, and we save our other set to charge down the Nuremberg. We're going to need two torpedoes, it appears, and now we've just got to reload our guns, start shooting at the sims whilst dodging their torpedoes and making sure the Nuremberg goes down. Well, that's part one, the Nuremberg's gone. We dodged the torpedoes, and now let's go head to head with the sims at this point, who seems to be recovering from using their torpedoes and bringing their guns around now, as we open up with 2 full salvos before they return fire, and they elect to use their armour piercing on us. Good idea, but not on the broadside of a Kiev. It's going to over-penetrate a good amount of the time, meaning that we can rip apart the sims here. One final salvo to go, and that's 2 enemy ships out of the game, and now we can begin to capture Bravo. So our damage now up to just shy of 91,000. There's a lot left to do if we want to win this game. As we can see, the numbers are not in our favour. It's only us and a friendly Graf Spee left alive, and that Graf Spee is about to fall. They are surrounded east of Delta by an enemy battleship, the enemy Akatsuki, along with a Leander and the Pensacola from earlier, or at least if I remember correctly. What can we do in this situation? Well, we can either try and help the Graf Spee, but look how far away they are. Even with our top speed, we're not going to get there to save them. We're essentially going to put ourselves into a situation we can't control. Alternatively, we're going to have to try and solo warrior this, as the Graf Spee is about to take a massive hit. We can try and solo warrior this as we capture Bravo by heading towards Alpha to start with and just see how things play out. And that is what we're going to do. As the Graf Spee is about to fall, we can see that it's the Leander behind us at the moment, trailing us in towards Bravo. And we decide to charge towards Alpha. And remember earlier I said about the top speed of the Kiev being fantastic because the fact the distances between the objectives on 2 Bravos is small? Well, you're going to see that in effect here, as we can get to Alpha very quickly and begin to recapture another point. Because in the meantime, as now we're the last ship left alive on our team, the enemy team's going to charge towards the objectives. And we can technically, if it was a 1 versus 1 at this point, we could out-capture the enemy team. Unfortunately, it's not. They've got a distribution of ships which they can assign to the 3 objectives they will always hold to R1. So we're going to make our way into A. Notice we haven't got any consumables left. Unfortunately, that's the price we pay for not having Superintendent as our 3rd captain skill. Instead, we've got Vigilance to spot torpedoes earlier. Personally prefer to use that, especially in the teamwork role when supporting battleships in the ship, i.e. with my squad mates. But in the meantime, we're just making our way for A. We're going to push towards Charlie as quickly as possible. And notice how we're having to manage our speed in the Kiev simply because this ship is so fast it actually runs out of capture points before it captures the zone. Something to be wary of in this ship. Although its acceleration is very nice, even without the acceleration upgrade, we've got the rudder shift upgrade, which means that you can cut your speed and then rebuild it very quickly, even from a standing still. Now, one thing to note about our torpedoes as well is they are finally reloaded. They have a 123-second reload. As base, that is absolutely horrific, so you need to make your torpedoes count on this ship. And now that we've got them reloaded, we're going to try and make them count once again. Bravo has been captured, so we're going to assume that's the Leander that we saw up in the northeastern corner of the map. And there's an enemy Congo. They spot us, we spot them at the same time. A bit unfortunate, so we're going to have to charge them because we're not going to be able to bring all their health down just by harassing them, especially seeing as we've only got 6 minutes left in the game and we can't afford for this to turn into a 2 versus 1. So we're going to rush the Congo, wiggle where we have to, wiggle that aft. They open fire with an initial battery salvo, Missing us completely. They open fire again with some more armor piercing. Missing us once again. Dispersion is on our side at this point. We've got the flags on, so it means we're not going to detonate if we get hit by their secondaries or their primary. We took good note of that previous game in the Kiev, and we're just going to charge them. We need to get as close as possible to make this work. We could have used our torpedoes now, but we only want to use one set in case we get ambushed by another ship soon after this engagement. So unfortunately we do take 2 armor piercing hits from the lead turret of the Congo, but our torpedoes are away and it's going to be enough. Also 2 secondary hits achieved there by our little 85mm pop gun. That's always nice to see, quite comedical. Having taken out the Congo, picking up an arsonist and the high caliber along the way, we now push into Charlie. We want to take Charlie back because we have Alpha. We always need to keep gaining points because we are just under 150 points behind the enemy team, and that's only going to increase due to the ratio of objectives captured. So we need to take the objectives and take out enemy ships in 1 versus 1 engagements, preferably as quickly as possible. So it's down to a 4 versus 1, and we're assuming that something's got to come through the middle. Something has to come through the middle to cover this objective because the enemy team know we're on Charlie. And sure enough, it's going to be the Akatsuki. We're ready for it, however, because what we decided to do is actually head towards the middle to counter it off with our other set of torpedoes, whilst our first set are still reloading with only a minute to go. On call, the Akatsuki arrives, and we're going to see that they do not open fire. So what we instantly assume is they're getting ready their torpedoes. So let's put them on a widespread and fire our torpedoes back and then rip into them, because they seem to be obsessed with getting those torpedoes off. They're in no rush, so we'll rip them apart in the meantime. Getting another load of nice hits, and our torpedoes will finish them off for another kill. And we finish off taking the objective, adding our 4th kill to our tally. Now, having dodged the torpedoes and with 34 seconds left on our primary set of torpedoes, so they reload, what can we do at this point? Well, Alpha's being taken, we're running out of time, the enemy team is still 150 points ahead of us, we need to head to Alpha and eliminate what's there. But Alpha is falling very quickly to the enemy team, so that means there's 2 enemy ships there. Well, we've got to go for it. Let's just hope the 2 cruisers are wounded, because it's got to be the cruisers that are there. And sure enough, there's the Pensacola. It's absolutely crippled. We open up with some high explosive, and then we throw in some armor piercing to finish them off, picking up the Confederate along the way and our Kraken as well. But there's the enemy Leander, and we're starting to take some hits. Our health pool's not holding up at this point. This is not good, as we also lose our engine and our torpedoes temporarily. Our secondary does hit the Leander and set it on fire. We open up with some high explosive. It doesn't do too much damage, and the Leander's armor piercing, those 152mm shells, is going to rip us to pieces. We hit them with some armor piercing of our own. We're dodging some incoming fire, but we're not going to be able to do it, guys. I don't think we're going to do it. No, that Leander's got us to right, surely. And there it is. Well, folks, I will be honest with you. When this game ended, I held my head in my hands for a good 5 minutes. Really, really disappointed at the fact I couldn't turn this into a win. But still, can we really complain? Because for a defeat, we picked up 465,114 silver credits, 6,379 experience, and we also picked up 6 achievements. The first, Arsonist, for setting an enemy ship on fire and destroying her, whereby the damage caused by the fire must exceed 40% of the destroyed ship's normal health pool. The second, being the Kraken Unleashed, for picking up 5 or more kills in a single game. We picked up 2 devastating strike awards, whereby we destroyed 2 enemy ships with singular artillery salvos, torpedo salvos or aircraft by causing damage to over 50% of the destroyed ship's normal HP. And on top of that, we also picked up the high caliber, whereby we damaged at least 4 enemy ships, with the damage exceeding 30% of the total HP of all the ships in the enemy team. And finally, the Confederate, for damaging at least 6 enemy ships, with the damage caused to each ship exceeding 20% of their normal health pool. And in terms of battle performance, we dealt out a nice rounded tally of 148,500 damage, consisting of 223 target hits from our main batteries, 5 torpedo hits, 6 incapacitations, 5 enemy ships destroyed, 16 fires set, 4 floods caused, 3 defend ribbons, 3 bases captured, 1 assisted capture, and 6 secondary battery hits. Looking at the team scores, we can see that we went above and beyond the Call of Duty, whereby we earned a base experience tally of 2,126, 1,202 more than second place on our team, and even more than that of first place on the enemy team, by 217 to be exact. Looking at our detailed report, we have one key item to note here, and that is the distribution of our damage caused, whereby it can be split up into roughly equal thirds, the first going to our main battery damage, the second to our torpedo damage, and the final third towards our fire damage, going to highlight how destroyers in general not only have, say, guns, but they also have torpedoes, especially in the case of Russian destroyers, or vice versa, with Japanese and American destroyers, they have guns as well as torpedoes, whereby if you use the two elements together, you can do a lot more than just relying on one element alone, or at least in general in my experience. For comparison, note how the enemy Akatsuki in the 1 versus 1 engagement prioritised using their torpedoes to try and hit us. If they had switched to their guns, we would have had a lot less health to try and contest the Pensacola Leander pair at the end. Coming on to our credits and experience finally, we can see that after deductions we walked away with 420,396 silver credits, and for our captain, he walked away with 18,593 experience today, thanks to the combination of flags we were using on this ship, as well as the premium camouflage skin. To conclude, we need to come back to a point raised at the start of the video, i.e. that I personally feel this is my best game of World of Warships to date, and articulate why I feel that way. In short, having watched the game back a number of times now, I do not feel as though there is anything I would have done differently at any given point in the match. Having applied the strengths and weaknesses of the Kiev to their maximum here, and even used my knowledge of the current destroyer meta, and on top of that, the perspectives of other ship classes versus destroyers, we were able to get through some very difficult situations with our ship still intact, especially with regards to the 2 versus 1 in the end against the Nuremberg and the Sims. And with the Kiev now heading towards Tier 9 in the near future, I look forward to the challenge that lies ahead. But for now, I've got nothing left to give. And so I'm TX141, and if you've enjoyed today's video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.